What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles submitted to the channel by MaxiPad, who's running both Hisui Decidueye and Hisui Typhlosion with the newly buffed Nightshade. Now it's a bit of a shame that Hisui Samurott doesn't also learn it, otherwise that could have made for a really great team, but anyways, MaxiPad is rounding off the team with a Tentacruel. With that being said, let's just get straight into the question of the day. Which starter Pokemon would you like to see get a regional form in the future, and which secondary typing would you give it? Let me know in the comment section down below. And with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle, we Decidueye into Shadow Abomasnow. Now, we are going to probably swap straight away into our Sasop, which is Tentacruel, unfortunately baiting out Ampharos, which is definitely not ideal for us, but they're unlikely to run Thunder Punch this season. It probably will be Trail Blaze or Brutal Swing, so we can no-shield that. We're going to overfarm just slightly, fire off the Scald before they make it to the next charge move. Scald does grab a shield, it also drops their attack, and it allows us to make it to a second Scald here. And Scald number 2 is going to grab both shields from the Ampharos, which is huge for us because we can come in with our Decidueye, and like Virizion, we completely wall the moveset now that we know is Brutal Swing and Trail Blaze. We can just no-shield the next charge move as well. Although Ampharos incredibly spammy this season, they might actually make it to a third charge move, and they do make it. So this one, we're actually going to use our shield. I don't mind this play here. We don't know what they've got in the bag, so going to play it safe, use the shield there, preserve some of our HP, and the opponent is going to come back in with the Abomasnow, and we're actually running Aura Sphere here, so we're full sending it, and Aura Sphere gets the one-shot, and they've got a Shadow Golurk in the back. So Hisui Decidueye absolutely going to town in this first battle, firing off the Nightshade, getting the one-shot up against the Shadow Golurk, and we're able to take that game. So going into next battle, we're going to see a Giratina in the lead. So of course, we do have Nightshade for coverage. I'd assume we probably win the zero shield scenario, unless they're running Shadow Force, which is pretty unlikely. But anyways, gonna no shield the first move. They did fire off a fair bit, but they just fire off a Dragon Claw, so that's okay. You can see we're trying to throw it on good timing, which does actually allow the opponent to throw 2 charge moves before we even fire off a single Nightshade. By this point, we make it to back-to-back. Nightshade is going to grab the shield there, and we can go for 1 extra Magical Leaf, fire off another Nightshade, and Nightshade number 2 is actually going to grab both shields from the opponent there. Not really sure why they double shielded. They could definitely live at least 1 Nightshade there. But anyway, it's going to come in with our Tentacruel just because we don't want to take super effective damage here. So instead, the opponent full sends the Shadow Force. They actually were running it. So that is interesting to know. At this point, again, going to start shielding here just because we don't want to get too low in case Hisui Typhlosion can't beat whatever's in the back. But they're going to come in with a Cobalion. So we're just going to fire off the Scald here. Maybe hoping for a debuff to their attack. Unfortunately, we don't get it, but we are going to double resist the fighting type damage, of course. Gonna respect the damage from a potential Stone Edge. The opponent does full send the Stone Edge there. So now we can overfarm just a little bit, fire off the Nightshade here, and Nightshade from this range actually doesn't quite get the KO. They make it to a charge move, but hopefully this is just a Sacred Sword, and it is. So of course, double resisted, doesn't do much damage. They're now going to come in with Swampert. We fire off 2 hexes, so not perfect timing there, but we will fire off a Nightshade, and then swap into our Tentacruel to catch the charge move, which I like. As well, this actually resisted, so that doesn't get the KO, and we make it to a Scald in time, and that's huge for us. Scald should be enough damage to get the KO there. The opponent comes back in with their Giratina, and can we outpace them to the charge move? We're actually able to win CMP here, and a Nightshade, super effective damage, will be enough to take out the Giratina, and we're able to take that game. So going into next battle, we see Hisui Decidueye into an Excadrill. So this is a great lead matchup for us. Assuming they're not running Iron Head, we will resist everything they can throw here. So going to no-shield the first move, and the opponent's going to go for a Rock Slide, which is very interesting. Maybe the opponent realizes that a Drill Run is resisted, but didn't realize Rock Slide was also resisted, so they fired off the Rock Slide. But either way, we go for a Nightshade there. We get the KO. They come in with Typhlosion, and I personally probably would have swapped out of this matchup just because we don't want to give them a huge farm down, because those Thunder Punches are going to be pretty deadly up against our Tentacruel. But gonna no-shield the first move here as the opponent will be firing off the Thunder Punch. You can see actually 2 Thunder Punches won't quite take us out there, but we still want to shield the next move anyways as they go for another Thunder Punch, and we can just barely make it to a Scald before they make it to a third Thunder Punch. At this point, I probably would just swap into our own Typhlosion, and we do exactly that. And again, we also drop their attack, and they've got Greninja in the back, so we can just overfarm just slightly, fire off the Wild Charge. Wild Charge gets the one-shot up against Greninja. They come back in with their own Typhlosion, but we're able to make it to a Nightshade before they reach back-to-back charge moves, and a Nightshade gets the KO up against the regular Typhlosion, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, it's the battle of the grass and fighting type Pokemon. I'd assume, since we're not running Aerial Ace, we probably do lose this matchup, but we might grab a shield advantage just because of the threat of a potential Aerial Ace. But either way, going to fire off the Charge Move on the CMP tie. Honestly, I'm surprised we're not trying to make a catch or something, because we do have two Pokemon in the back that do much better into Virizion here. So yeah, not really sure why we're playing out like this, but either way, we can make it to back-to-back Nightshades. Nightshade number 2 doesn't quite take them out there, so they do just barely win the zero shield scenario, but that's okay. We can come in with the Tentacruel. The opponent fires off a Leaf Blade there, but we can get the Poison Jab farm down. Now they come in with the Ampharos here, so again, not ideal for us, but we do have an energy advantage, so we actually outpace them to the first charge move, firing off the Scald, and the opponent actually no shields that, and we drop their attack once again. So at this point, gonna no shield, they go for the Trailblaze there, boosting up their attack, but we can come in with our Typhlosion. We will have to shield this though, because a Brutal Swing, I mean, it is not boosted now because we did debuff their attack initially, but either way, it still do a lot of damage up against the Typhlosion, as it is super effective because we are part Ghost. But either way, at this point, going to shield this up, hopefully go for a full Hex farm down, but I'm not certain if we will get that farm down, but the opponent swaps into wall range, so that's fine with us. We can now fire off a Nightshade here, possibly trying to grab a shield, and the opponent does use their shield, so now we can fire off the Wild Charge, and this is going to hit for super effective damage. Wild Charge does huge damage, we now swap, and we catch the charge move onto our Tentacruel, and the opponent baits with an Icicle Spear there. Well, recognizing that we were debuffed in our defense, so Icicle Spear would have taken out the Typhlosion, but unfortunately for them, they go for an Icicle Spear here. I think they're one away from the next charge move, but we get the full Hex farm down, and we Hex farm down the Walrein, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, not a great lead matchup for us. We're actually going to stay in initially and then swap into our Typhlosion, with the opponent comes in with Feraligatr. So we're actually going to bait here. A lot of Feraligatr users will just shield the first move regardless, but this opponent actually calls the bait there, and unfortunate for us, we went for the Wild Charge. We could have just taken them out there, but it's a little bit risky because if they shield, they can probably just go for a full Shadow Claw farm down. So I do understand why we baited there, but unfortunately it doesn't pay off. Now at this point, going to come in with our Decidueye, going to use the shield here as they go for the Ice Beam, and we do get the farm down. Now we're just going to fire off the Nightshade immediately here, and then probably swap into our Tentacruel, and we do exactly that, and the opponent actually hesitated. They didn't throw straight away to wait to see what we wanted to do there, and then they ended up throwing, and unfortunately for them, we end up catching the charge move onto our Tentacruel. The opponent comes in with Pangoro. This is a fairly good matchup for us, but if they get a boost, which they do, then obviously not going to be ideal, as the next Night Slash will pretty much take us out here. But we go for the Scald, and we drop their attack, and not only that, the opponent no shields for some reason. They go for a Night Slash there. We can go for the Poison Jab farm down. Actually, we're not quite going to get there in time, so instead we swap into our Decidueye. The opponent goes for another Night Slash. That is resisted damage here, and honestly, I'm not sure why we're not throwing a charge move. Maybe going to try and commit to a full fast move farm down, but I just don't see that happening here. So instead, we use our final shield. Gonna fire off the Nightshade here. Nightshade grabs the first shield from the opponent. We do make it to another Nightshade here, and then possibly gonna have to swap out into our Tentacle, and we do swap. We do force the opponent to throw the energy here, as the opponent goes for a Moonblast, which is definitely overkill, but we do get a simultaneous KO there, and we actually end up tying that game. So going into the next battle, great lead for us as we lead into Swampert. They're going to say swap into Giratina, and honestly, we do have 3 Pokemon that have coverage for Giratina, but none of them have like super positive matchups, so I don't mind staying in here, but we should definitely swap out eventually because we need this thing to take on that Swampert. So yeah, going to chip with the Nightshade, then swap into our Tentacruel. This is kind of interesting just because we have to full send a Blizzard to get the KO here. I don't think the resisted Poison Jab damage with a Scald will be enough to get the KO, but maybe because the switch clocks are misaligned, they might just swap back into their Swampert, and they do exactly that. So at this point, we're going to full send the Blizzard. I agree with this. We're only going to make it to 1 charge move, and Blizzard does big damage up against the Swampert. The opponent is going to perfectly overfarm though, so very good counting on their part there as they fire off the charge move. Hydro Cannon gets the KO from this range, but we come in with the Decidueye and we get the full farm down anyways, and they're going to come in with a Talonflame, so a little bit tricky for us. We do have Wild Charge for coverage, so we have the tools to potentially win this game, but it will be very difficult. So the opponent swaps back into Giratina. We're just going to fire off the Nightshade straight away. Don't want them to get off any charge moves whatsoever. They come back in with the Talonflame here, and at this point they're going to throw straight away. So we're going to shield this as the opponent is going to fire off a flame charge, and that's actually a mistake from the opponent's end there, just because it will actually take them more incinerates to make it to the next charge move now. If they just went straight for fly, which they did the initial time, then they could have actually made it to a charge move already, but we swap into a Decidueye, we actually throw on the CMP tie, and we grab the final shield, and that is perfect for us, because now flame charge gets the KO, but we've got a wild charge banked, and wild charge gonna hit for super effective damage. It gets the KO up against the Talonflame, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Cresselia in the lead. So of course, not a great lead matchup for us. We do have coverage there, but they're actually running Confusion. So we swap out into another Pokemon that is weak to Confusion. However, Tentacruel is a lot bulkier than Decidueye, so we take the moves fairly well. The opponent's actually going to swap into Feraligatr there, but again, we drop their attack. We seem to be very fortunate with the Skull debuff so far. We're going to no shield. They go for Crunch, so they are actually running Crunch there, but even though they are running Crunch, which is neutral, I think because we've debuffed their attack there, we should be able to live the next Crunch as well. We go for the Scald, we do get them very low here. I think we just barely live this, so gonna no shield, and Crunch doesn't quite take us out. The Poison Jab damage does get the KO, and we make it to yet another Scald up against Cresselia coming back in, and we grab a shield from the Cresselia. Now, unfortunately, we don't get the debuff this time around, but that's okay. Gonna come in with the Typhlosion, shield the first move, as the opponent baits with a Grass Knot there, then swapping into Cobalion. So we're gonna come in with our Decidueye. We are going to no shield the first move there as they go for Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword does some decent damage there. A second one will get us fairly low and put us into farm down range, but it doesn't really matter too much there. We're now going to fire off the Aura Sphere, and hopefully this does connect. Otherwise, they will farm us down, but it does connect there. We get the farm down. Unfortunately, we just barely don't make it to a Nightshade there on our Decidueye, but that's okay. We are going to no shield this charge move. A little bit risky, but they do fire off the resisted Grass Knot once again. So we can go and fire off a Hex, then go for the Nightshade, throwing on good timing there, grabbing a shield, and then just throwing the next Nightshade straight away here. Possibly would have preferred to go for an extra Hex there, and you can see that actually barely doesn't take them out, but we get the Hex farm down anyways, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, another Cresselia in the lead. So of course, we are going to swap into our Tentacruel here. If they're running Future Sight, then that is very problematic. But they do actually swap out of that matchup into a Guzzlord. So we're going to no shield as they go for a Brutal Swing. We're now going to full send the Blizzard here. No baiting, no messing around. And Blizzard, unfortunately, does get shielded by the Guzzlord. And at this point, they've probably put us into Brutal Swing range, and they do have a significant energy advantage because they didn't have to full send a Blizzard there. So I think, yeah, probably just the right move there to let the Tentacle go down. We can now come in with our Decidueye. If they're running Sludge Bomb, then so be it. But the opponent baits with a Brutal Swing once again, and we're actually able to make it to an Aura Sphere. So Aura Sphere should be enough damage to get the KO up against the Guzzlord. They come back in with Cresselia, and we swap, and we make a very nice catch there, catching it onto our Typhlosion, but we're going to use our shield anyways as they go for a Moonblast, and they've got their own Typhlosion in the back. However, this is the regular Johto version, so we are going to shield. This is just a Thunder Punch, so I personally wouldn't have shielded that, but either way, I'm going to fire off the Nightshade here. Nightshade will be coming through. Nightshade grabs the final shield from the opponent. We make it to another Nightshade, but does this get the KO here? Nightshade barely doesn't take them out, so we swap into our Decidueye. We make the catch there as the opponent reaches a Blast Burn, which does get the KO there. We can come back in with our Typhlosion, but do we have enough HP to live a potential Moonblast? We're going to go for the Nightshade. Nightshade does big damage there, but I just don't think we can tank this. Hisui Typhlosion is pretty glassy. Moonblast, actually we do live that, but unfortunately we barely miss out on making it to another Nightshade, and the opponent's able to take that game. Into next battle, very cool spice from the opponent there as they swap, and unfortunately they are just core broken by Hisui and Decidueye as they lead with a shiny Shadow Raikou and swap into a Alolan Golem. So ABA double electric so far. Very interesting team, pretty cool team though, I have to say. They go for the Stone Edge there, we do completely wall it. So at this point, although we probably should shield the next charge move here, and the opponent goes for a Rock Blast there. So they're running double rock type moves there. But either way, we get the full farm down, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in with a Cobalion, so we're going to overfarm just a little bit here, go for the Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere probably going to grab a shield from the opponent from this point, and it does grab the shield, so we swap into our Tentacruel, basically just forcing the opponent to potentially come back in with their Raikou, or just throw a lot of charge moves to get rid of us. And we are going to not throw a charge move here, we're just going to continue to overfarm, maybe expecting the opponent to come back in with their Raikou, and our energy is going to be a lot better up against the Raikou, since it's certainly a lot glassier than a Cobalion. But either way, firing off the Scald there, making sure we were just one away from the next charge move, so if they did try to snipe with the Raikou, we could get off another Scald, and the opponent does swap back into the Raikou, but it doesn't matter as we're able to swap out in time, make it to the Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere gets the one shot up against the Shiny Shadow Raikou. We get a simultaneous KO, but we still have 2 Pokemon in the back, so we're able to take that game. Into next battle, we see Guzzlord in the lead, so this is a fairly okay matchup for us, of course. These Magical Leafs are going to be resistant damage, but an Aura Sphere, we've already seen, does a ton of damage here, and the opponent does bait with a Brutal Swing. Now, we're going to fire for Nightshade here. Don't think that was really necessary, as we could have just swapped into our Typhlosion straight away, but I suppose this will put them into range where we can just fire off a single Nightshade here. Nightshade is stab from the Typhlosion, so it would do more damage. The opponent does end up shielding. You don't see the animation, but they certainly shielded that. They're going to go for a Thunder Punch bait, which is unfortunate, but we will actually get outpaced to the next charge move. That should just be another Thunder Punch, so going to no shield. They go for the Thunder Punch there. We are going to overfarm. Honestly, this energy doesn't really help us too much up against the Guzzlord anyway, so it doesn't make a difference there, but basically just giving them less farm on the Guzzlord. You can see they only get 1 Dragon Tail off, which is nice. They're now going to swap into a Golisopod, so we are going to try to swap and make a catch there, but unfortunately just barely not able to do so in time. So instead, going to have to shield up the X-Scissor there. They're running X-Scissor, so probably going to run Liquidation as the secondary charge move. We've got no shields remaining anyways, but no, actually it's an Aerial Ace and X-Scissor Golisopod, which is very interesting. At this point, we are going to massively overfarm here. You can see Aerial Ace is really not doing that much damage. We farm up to 100 energy before throwing the charge move. We go for the Scald. Scald gets the KO despite being resisted, and we're able to make it to the Blizzard here, and Blizzard should be enough damage to get the KO there. The opponent saving their shield for the Decidueye, but it doesn't matter. Blizzard gets the one shot, and we're able to take that game. Into next battle, we see Giratina in the lead once again. So last time the opponent double shielded their Giratina. Are they going to do the same this time around? We're going to fire off the Nightshade here straight away. Nightshade, you can see the opponent already does let the first move go through. And you can see we probably win the zero shield scenario if they don't go for Shadow Force here. And they don't. So at this point, we can take the next Dragon Claw. Going to let it go through. And we will just fire off the next Nightshade as soon as we get there. And if we do not connect him, maybe we will swap out of this matchup. And you see, we actually had the swap ready, but the opponent actually lets that go through. They come in with a Party Hat Blastoise. They get the Water Gun farm down. We just stay in because we've got Tentacruel as well. And now they come in with Cobalion. So at this point, without having a Fire-type charge move, this is a little bit tricky here, but we're going to shield. They bait with a Sacred Sword, which is very unfortunate. At this point, going to fire off the Nightshade here. Nightshade is not going to do that much damage, but we do grab the shield back from the opponent. The opponent going to fire off another charge move, and they bait once again, which is so unfortunate because those Sacred Swords we've seen already do like almost no damage whatsoever. But unfortunately, actually never mind, the opponent does swap back into their Blastoise, so we do have some play here. Gonna swap into our Tentacruel, gonna tank the Hydro Cannon there, doesn't do much damage. I personally would have thrown a Scald already just because we know it's not gonna get the KO, but it might drop their attack. But either way, doesn't really matter. We will finally fire off a Scald here, and Scald is going to connect. Scald does not drop their attack anyway, so it doesn't really matter, and we're kind of forced to throw another Scald here, otherwise they would actually make it to a third Hydro Cannon. They come back in with the Cobalion here, and we're staying in to force them to throw, and the opponent throws at perfect timing there. Literally just before we make it to the Scald, they full send the Stone Edge, however, and they do make it to another charge move. Is this another Stone Edge? Yes, it is. Unfortunately, Stone Edge gets the KO, and we do end up losing that game. But into the next battle, we see a Shadow Feraligatr in the lead. So, of course, great lead matchup for us. The opponent is going to stay in and just fire off a Hydro Cannon. So, fine with us, gonna no shield, doesn't do that much damage. Although the Shadow Claws are adding up over time, we're now going to fire off the Nightshade here just before they make it to the next charge move. The opponent actually shields up their Feraligatr. I don't think that makes an awful lot of sense, but maybe trying to grab a shield back from us, which they do get, but we do get a huge farm down. So, yeah, not really sure why they played it like that. But either way, we're going to fire off a Nightshade here. Nightshade, not going to do that much damage, and we will actually just allow them to fully farm us down. I'm not sure about that. I personally would have swapped out there just because we have two Pokemon that can deal with Clefable pretty comfortably. But either way, we're going to bait out a Giratina, and hopefully we can land a Blizzard, otherwise this is going to look pretty tricky. But the opponent is going to go for a Dragon Claw there, doesn't do much damage. We're now firing off the Blizzard. Can we connect once again? Blizzard is no shielded, it does huge damage. We swap into our Typhlosion. We can tank this charge move here as they go for a Dragon Claw, absolutely fine with us. I don't think we're going to quite get the full Hex farm down there, and we don't, which is very unfortunate. We're actually going to no shield this. I'm not so sure about that, just because we actually put ourselves into range where they can Fairy Wind farm us down, but we are going to fire off the Wild Charge and basically allow that farm down to be a little bit easier for them, giving them less energy, but still, this is going to be a little bit tricky here. Can we actually reach a Scald before they make it to 3 Swifts here? Clefable incredibly spammy this season. We shoot up the second Swift, and actually we're able to get the Poison Jab farm down anyways, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see a Shadow Dragonite in the lead. This is definitely very tricky for us. We're actually choosing to stay in. I don't agree with this at all. I think we should definitely swap out just because our fast move is double resisted. We're really not doing much damage whatsoever. But gonna fire off the Nightshade anyways. Nightshade is going to be no shielded, and now we swap into our Tentacruel. So the opponent going to fire off another charge move here, just going to no shield this as the opponent is going to go for the Dragon Claw, and now they swap into Aurora. So not the worst thing ever. Both the fast moves are going to be resisted in this matchup, so going to fire off the Scald. Scald grabs the shield there. We don't drop their attack this time around, but we are going to shield, and the opponent full sends the Meteor Beam there, boosting up their attack. And honestly, if they throw another Meteor Beam which we shield, then eventually I think even a resisted Weather Ball will get the KO. But we swap, we make a catch onto our Decidueye. Very nice catch there, catching the Meteor Beam. They do take us out anyways, but that's okay. At this point, going to come in with our Typhlosion, and we're probably just going to shield once and go for a full Hex farm down, and hopefully this energy will be useful for whatever they've got in the back. Going to shield as they go for the Meteor Beam. Once again, we get the Hex farm down, and let's see what they want to do. Opponent going to come in with a Clefable, so this is a great matchup for us. We do resist the typical moveset of Swift and Moonblast, firing off the Nightshade there, then swapping into our Tentacruel, maybe expecting the opponent to swap back out of this matchup, but either way, we fire off the Scald. Scald is going to grab the final shield from the opponent. They're going to fire off a charge move here as they go for a Swift. Swift is not going to take us out there. They do get the farm down, but I don't think it matters. We do resist both the Moonblast, and we also double resist the Swift here. They go for the Moonblast. They swap back into Dragonite, trying to make a catch there, but it doesn't work out for them as we do get the Hex farm down, and now we can fire off the Nightshade. Nightshade gets the KO, and we're able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.